Dear Mother, I'm writing you twice in one day. Can you believe your luck? The festivities at Six Hills have been a pendulum of excitement. After we left Nico's and acquired our souvenirs, we made our way, with the rest of the festivity goers, to the grasslands. Victor was approached by Yinny, the halfling knife dancer we met at our sparring match yesterday. They seem rather fond of each other. I wonder if a knife dancer's blade is like the plumage of a peacock. The sharper the knife, the more attractive they appear to one another. The grasslands were packed to the brim with things to do and see. Seredan and I decided we should get our judging duties out of the way, so we dragged Victor, Ezra, and Bolt with us over to the Brew Bash booths. The Brew Bash tasting was most enjoyable, primarily because Seredan was having the time of her life. Poor Craggy became Seredan's drinking vessel. I hope the Choir of the Crags isn't too offended. I wish you were here with me to experience the ales and wines we tasted. They were delectable. We were first approached by the infamous Meadstead Mead beer golems. The beer golems are giant constructs made entirely out of wooden barrels. The mead wasn't as terrible as Balin Heck led us to believe it would be, but it did leave a little bit to be desired. After the beer golems, we were approached by two human farmers, Gale and Brock Farthing, who were joined by their goat, Twiddle. Gale and Brock are from Esther, near the verdant farmlands. It seems to be more of a remote town. They were very kind and quite proud of their humble wine. Next, we made our way to the Edaquathan Run booth. I have never been this close to an Edaquathan before, and I tried my best to be polite and not stare at their sharp, protruding teeth. This year is the first time the Edaquathan have submitted an entry into the Brew Bash competition. Hathor and Mirth, the standoffish booth owners, poured us a very tasty kombucha into cups made from real coral. After the Edaquathan booth, we met the most interesting creature, a Keg Pony. This Keg Pony was owned by Flitwick Battlebristle, a gnome from Pellbend who owns Bittermare Brews. Flitwick feeds his Keg Ponies hops, and as they walk and gallop and do the things a normal horse would do, the beer, which was quite dense and fairly good, ferments in the pony's stomach. The drink is dispensed from a tap near its underbelly. I didn't ask Flitwick if the Keg Pony could be ridden, but assuming it could, it would make a great companion for long journeys. The next booth featured a divine wine by Chateau Morlaine. Two humans in lavish robes welcomed us. They were Galen Hawk, a self-proclaimed sommelier, and his apprentice, Margaret Nicholsides. If we were judging on presentation alone, they would certainly have won, hands down. The wine was housed in delicate bubbles that gently floated through the air. The next brew was made by the students at Millabrax College. A single woman in a red mask named Tessa Tanoki shared a mixed drink with us. It was a little bit of a disappointment, but I drank it nonetheless. The second to last booth was a drink that finally got the attention of Victor. Rockhopper Distillery is run by Geltrude Rockhopper and her sons Haben and Myrtle. The dwarves produce a potent vodka that had Victor and Bolt smiling from ear to ear. Geltrude recognized Seredan as a member of the Vanguard and mentioned that there is a huge group of mercenaries, Clan Fallowshield, camped outside of Six Hills. Seredan explained to us that Clan Fallowshield was previously known as Clan Brightshield. They lived in the Malagoth Mountains but were exiled a few centuries ago. Clan Brightshield had been the protectors of a grand vault, which held a large collection of crystals. The crystals themselves contained the spirits of evil creatures. While under Clan Brightshield's watch, the vault was breached and the evil therein released. Clan Brightshield was exiled, and their name changed with their banishment. They've been hunting down the aberrations, devils, and demons ever since, as they attempt to clear their name. Our final stop was at an open tent where a huge minotaur in a kilt was serving rum. Hollick's half-pharaoh, the minotaur, described his drink as a nature brew. He had the most adorable little churning elemental making his rum. I was gawking over the elemental and I think he was a bit embarrassed for me, so he gave me a little elemental of my own for the road. It's been interesting to see how each of our party reacted to the drinks. Ezra was quite excited to try everything. I think he knows his way around a strong drink. Victor has very picky taste, though it's possible I'm mistaking picky for refined. Bolt seems willing to try anything. However, I'm not sure they actually digest food and drink the same as the rest of us do. Sari, like Bolt, will try anything. Balin Heck may regret having her as a judge, as I think she enjoyed them all equally. After we completed our judging rounds, we made a little pit stop. Actually, a few pit stops. Had a magical medical tent to help us keep our wits about us. Some of those drinks packed quite the punch. We waved hello to Ignis Sal, one of our fellow judges, but Ainor Elevir, the fourth judge, was nowhere to be found. Once we were all feeling ourselves again, we headed over to the bounder races. Bounders are creatures that are similar to the rabbits we have at home, but several times larger. Victor was the only one of us brave enough to bet on the professional bounder race. And wouldn't you know it, his pick won. The race was exciting to watch, but surprisingly dangerous. Despite the potential impending doom, Ezra, Victor, and Sari decided to try their hand at bounder racing in the amateur competition. Victor trusted me with his knives while he raced. They are the loveliest weapons I've ever laid eyes on. They are obviously well cared for, perhaps obsessively so. Each dagger is unique, yet razor sharp and perfectly balanced. They seem intended to be used for throwing. The first dagger had a broad blade made of blackened steel with very angular edges. I'm not a weapon expert, but it seems to be dwarven made and was engraved with the dwarven rune, where the blade and crossguard meet. I wish I could read dwarven. I'm curious what it says. The pommel flared out at the bottom. The next dagger was a wicked-looking kukri blade with a reddish tint mixed with a blackened steel. The pommel had a sharp spike. Above the grip, a rune was etched in Orcish. The third weapon was perplexing. The handle itself had no wrapping, but the edges were surrounded by some sort of perpetual moisture, making the handle soft to the grip. Another rune was etched down the handle in a language I am not familiar with. The blade itself was long and slender with the slightest hint of blue. Strangely, it reminded me of seaweed or some other aquatic vegetation. The fourth blade felt more familiar. It was a utilitarian stiletto-style blade with little decoration or flair. There was writing on this blade as well, this time in Infernal. The last dagger was a small Chris-style weapon. A red cloth was wrapped carefully around the handle, leaving 4 to 5 inches of material dangling from the pommel. There was a carving on the crossguard written in Goblin. I asked one of the goblins sitting next to me in the stands what it meant. He graciously obliged and then gave me a strange look. "It says, nah," he told me. Victor kept one blade with him, which I haven't been able to inspect in person yet. Victor is, quite literally, shrouded in mystery. I'm not sure I trust him yet. Bolt and I sat in the stands and cheered on the others as they mounted their bounders. The race began, and our friends were quickly in the lead of the pack. Unfortunately, about halfway around the track, Saray's bounder fell, throwing her off and causing a massive pile-up. The track was soon just a huge heap of fur, limbs, and dust. In the end, Victor was, well, the victor, with Ezra taking second place. Victor collected his winnings and then revealed to us in secret that he fed his bounder one of the sugar bombs from Nico's prior to the race. A sly fox, that one is. Sari was a bit beat up after being thrown from her bounder, but I was able to help patch up some of her scrapes and bruises. I'm feeling more grateful for these abilities I've been given, which I've previously always thought of as a curse. Just as we were regrouping and considering what other shenanigans we could get ourselves into, the shenanigans found us. We noticed that a large group of Arcanum had begun to gather nearby. It seemed a little odd considering we were in the middle of a jovial festival. Suddenly, the earth began to shake quite violently. We struggled to keep our footing. I wondered if a void rift were going to open again, like the one in Potter's Path. A rift of sorts did open, but it was a fissure in the earth. From out of the ground rose a gigantic earth elemental in a blistering rage. Near the crack in the ground, a grass-free area of dirt began to bubble, like a boiling pot of water. From the muddy soil arose several small clay-like monsters. They reminded me of baby bears in the spring, but with the temperament of a viper. They were absolutely darling, round and squishy, but also threw dirt clods at us, vomited mud, and attacked us with their surprisingly powerful weapons. Justicar Grenwhitehall lunged forward to fight the huge earth elemental. As she ran past us, she ordered us to fight off the little muddy beasts. At first, I was taken aback that she assumed we could just jump into the fray at a moment's notice. Then again, Sarai and I did come to Six Hills as a reward for fighting undead, and apart from Ezra, we were all sporting rather serious-looking weapons. Ezra was the first of us to attack. He shot the most magnificent orange magic from his hands, completely obliterating one of the walking dirt clods. I've never had the opportunity to see such beautiful magic in combat. I was amazed at his power, but I suspect he was holding back a bit, afraid of what the prying Arcanum eyes might witness. Victor in the heat of combat is a lovely sight to behold. He moves as a graceful swan, swooping around the enemy, a pirouette out of harm's way, a soaring leap to kill. He is so lithe and nimble, the rest of us look like oafish dolts, with all the dexterity and grace of a sack of potatoes in comparison. And we have our eyesight to help us. About halfway through the conflict, we discovered that our little friends could travel through the earth. We watched as they sank into the ground at one point, only to see their sinister little muddy faces begin to emerge in another space. It was unnerving. I don't think I'll look at the muddy banks of the river the same for quite some time. Bolt's strength is unparalleled. They expertly beat down our tiny enemies without breaking a sweat. In hindsight, they may not sweat at all. Regardless, they took every attack from the little brutes in stride. Of course, Sarai is a star with her spear, Craggy. She not only uses her weapon to attack, but to expertly pole vault over the enemy, showcasing her power and deftness. I have much to learn from her. The Justicar was able to make relatively quick work of the Earth Elemental with the help of her magic-infused hammer. She crushed the elemental with a final powerful blow. When she was finished, it was nothing more than a pile of rocks and debris. The remainder of us were down to our last sludgy soldier. Sarai's face twisted into a snarl as the Justicar helped finish off the Mudman. I don't think she appreciated the assistance, and I thought Victor was the only one who could shoot daggers. Overall, our little team came out on top. That's not to say we escaped entirely unscathed. Victor and I took the brunt of the damage amongst the group. At one point, I was completely encrusted in a column of hardened dirt. It was not my proudest moment. While we wiped the mud from our weapons, Justicar Whitehall had a brief exchange with Balin Heck, and then promptly ordered us to follow her to the Arcanum offices. I watched as Ezra's face turned from a lovely hue of green to a sickly shade of yellow. After watching her make such quick work of that menacing elemental, I'm sure Ezra was imagining the fate the Justicar had in store for him, assuming she had discovered his secret. However, he didn't cower in fear, but strode confidently forward. I admire his fortitude. His courage, paired with his incredible mind, are an unconquerable combination. He is an iceberg of brilliance. Upon arriving at the Arcanum offices, the Justicar revealed that they somewhat expected the Earth Elemental attack. Apparently, they have been able to read vibrations to predict when one will occur. They've asked for an increase in their local Arcanum forces to help keep the multiplying attacks under control, but were denied their request. From what the Arcanum can tell, the source of these vibrations seems to be coming from Hollow Bend Sanctum, a small rune to the south of the Long Road. The Justicar offered to pay us 30 gold per person, with an additional 15 gold per person advance, to investigate the source. This request was quite unexpected. We all felt a bit like we were going to be scolded when she marched us down to the Arcanum headquarters. Sarai and Ezra both agreed to the Justicar's request, and so I will be joining them. I cannot let Ezra out of my sight, and the trio need me to stay with Sarai. Bolt and Victor will be joining us as well. In addition to Justicar Whitehall's task, Balin Heck has another request for us. He has offered a 50 gold bonus to find and safely return Ainur Elevir, or to provide information on her whereabouts. Some Arcanum scouts found her caravan abandoned near Hollow Bend Sanctum. They speculate that it may be bandits that had attacked her. Ezra and Bolt shared that they previously ran into bandits along the Long Road, so bandits are a likely enemy. We are to take the airship, the greatest treasure, and travel to Hollow Bend Sanctum immediately. I've come back to my room to collect my things and send a message to my employer. I couldn't resist taking a moment to write to you. Miss you. Love, Eve.